recording for about an hour now, and I have all my friends here. You can see my friends back there. I have 8 puppets. I'm a ventriloquist because it keeps me off the streets, and I'm home talking to myself anyway. But I think we need to move around and get a little active. So stay sitting in your chairs, but just get ready to move.
30-second dance party.
We're going to have a dance party. Oh, no, I have to turn. Okay, wasn't that fun? I have that in my car because, as you know, traffic in the area has gotten horrendous. And if I'm at a stoplight and I'm just getting frustrated, I do my 30-second dance party, and I'm just kind of jiving out in my car, and I don't care what people think when they see me. It makes me in a better mood. Now, you might not want to do this at work because your coworkers might not like it or they might be on the phone, but have one of these. I got these stocking stuffers for my granddaughters, and I'm having more fun with it, and I think they will too. I want to talk about humor. We have to laugh or we're going to cry, and I would just rather laugh. And I want to tell you that you can de-escalate a serious situation at your work or at home or in a group if you use humor. And I always use humor, and I have the privilege of writing about it. And one of my favorite subjects is my dear sweet mother, and she was at Spring Creek in Boise for several years. And just some of the stories I have about her, I wrote about them. And so I encourage you to write your own stories and tell your own stories. And in my book, Midlife Happy Hour, I wrote about my mom's driving, how she terrorized the people in southern Idaho with her erratic driving. Finally, she had an accident. She drove into her garage, hit the back of it, put it in reverse, hit the back as the garage door was coming down, so she damaged the front and the back of her car, which is kind of funny but kind of scary too. I had to take away the keys. And I don't know why it's always the daughter that has to do these things. But I talked to her and I said, well, the car's in the shop and we're waiting for parts. Those parts never came in. So that's how I took the keys away, being positive and somewhat truthful, but she shouldn't have been driving. Another time was when I came into her assisted living facility, and I wrote about this in Midlife Cabernet, and how she was sitting there at Spring Creek reading ESPN, and she had Forbes magazines all over, and she had beauty magazines, and she was 87. And I said, well, Mom, I didn't know you were interested in sports. And she said, no, I'm not. I'm just waiting for my prize. And she had subscribed to 75 magazines thinking she was going to get the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. And that was my responsibility then to step in and take over the checkbook. And that's difficult too. But again, I used humor. I just told her that, we weren't going to the Super Bowl. And so she doesn't need to have ESPN. But it took me 2 years to get her off of all those subscriptions. And she never did win the prize patrol. And I wish I had organized somebody with balloons and a big sign that said she did. I also wrote about her in my memoir. And I wrote humorous stories about her. It was very difficult after she passed. And I wrote about how at Thanksgiving we always had turkey soup instead of a turkey because she cooked it so long. She cooked it overnight, and it was just this mess blob of turkey, and we called it turkey soup. But if you have clients who are reminiscing about the past, try and make that story funny. Try and tell them things they can do to remember those incidents that were so good. And my mom did have dementia at the end, but she remembered music. And I played music for her. I had the old copies of the Lawrence Welk show, if you remember the Lawrence Welk show on TV. And I played those for her, and she loved it. Didn't know my name, but she loved that. And if I could bring happiness to her in her last days, that was my motivation. And the people who were caring for her, I totally respect and admire. I encourage you to write your own stories and to keep your own mind happy you can watch happy movies, funny movies. If you have older clients or parents, get some Cary Grant movies or Abbott and Costello, Charlie Chaplin, Shirley Temple, Katharine Hepburn, all these old stories that bring back the meaningful times of their life when they could laugh and enjoy. And there are books, if they're able to read, or read stories, read books to your clients. Anything by Irma Bombeck or Mark Twain that had rich stories that they can appreciate. Now we're going to do an exercise. I don't know if you remember how to laugh. I don't know. There are 5 ways to laugh. First of all, you have to squint your eyes. Second, pull your mouth back in a tight grin. Third, do a high-pitched ha ha ha. And 4th, rock back and forth. And 5, repeat it. Let's try it. Squint your eyes, pull your mouth back, go ha 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 ha, do it back and forth, and then repeat. Sit in your office and do this often. And your coworkers will either like it or not, but it'll make you happy. Practice laughing. When's the last time you had a belly laugh? Do something that will encourage you to have a belly laugh. And my last story, I'm a storyteller, and that's what I do. I wrote a blog. I have a blog on elaineambrose.com, and it's called My Mother's Body Got Lost. And this blog won a national award. I read it at a conference in New York City. It's a true story. My dear sweet mother passed away on a Friday, and she was living in Boise, and I wanted her transported to Wendell. We grew up in Wendell, and that's where the cemetery was, and that's where my father's buried, and it's 100 miles away. Well, they were supposed to do that. Saturday came, I called, they didn't know where she was. Sunday, I called, they didn't know where the casket was. By Monday, I was using my outside voice. I said, "Where is she?" And finally, this is a true story, I got a telephone call saying, "We found your mom. She's near Bliss." Bliss is a small town near Wendell. And that's what we don't know where she was for the weekend. I think she was having her last laugh. But they found her near Bliss, and I answered, "Of course she is." And then, so we tried to make these stories funny, even though it was pretty dramatic for me as the daughter trying to make all these arrangements. But if you can find humor in the situation, please do, because it'll save your sanity. So I'm going to toss this back to Laurie.
Well, we just want to